Hello, Algebra 2 class. This is Mr. AC. I wanted to go over basically one example of the projectile motion scenarios. And this is kind of how it works. So let's say I have a situation where I'd say, let's say I throw a football 20 meters per second at a height of 80 meters. When will the football hit the ground? That's what this question is asking us right here. So we know that if I'm throwing a football, so we'll draw this right here. That's me. And I throw a football, it's going to go upwards. And then finally, it's going to go down. Let me go ahead and draw myself more to scale. There you go. So, this is me. I'm throwing a football up in the air, and it's going to come down. So, because I'm throwing a football up in the air, remember, that means that my velocity will be positive. We're going to do an example later where my velocity is actually going to be negative. It's when an object is being thrown downward. Now, to set up this equation, we know that since we're in meters, it's very important that we recognize what units we're in. Since we're in meters, okay, I know that we are going to, my acceleration due to gravity, is going to be 9.8 meters per second squared. I know my velocity is 20 meters per second, so I know that's my velocity. And I know my height, which it tells us right here, the height is at 80 meters. So when I go to set this equation up, all I'm going to do is I'm going to take this 9.8 and I'm going to plug it in for my gravity. So I'm going to get y equals, oops, there should be a negative right there. I apologize. Remember that gravity always pulls us down, which is why there's a negative right there. So we're going to get y equals negative 1/2 times 9.8 x squared plus, well, what's my velocity? My velocity is 20 meters per second, so we get 20x plus my height, which is 80 meters. 80. Okay. So now I go ahead and I multiply this. Negative 1/2 times 9.8. That's just going to be y equals negative 4.9 x squared plus 20x plus 80. That was it. It's that simple. Now I have my equation. Perfect. Now that I have my equation, the question is asking us when will the football hit the ground. So what I'll do is I'll go ahead and into my calculator here. I'll go ahead and what I'll do is, so I'll go ahead, bring it up closer. Let me zoom it in. Okay, I'm going to plug that equation in. My equation, I wrote it down, hopefully you wrote it down, was negative 4.9 x squared. Okay, plus 20x plus 80. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my table, second table, and I'm going to go here to my table. Okay, I'm going to zoom in a little bit. You can try to see it as best as possible. There we go. Now if you look at my table, x represents my seconds, and this represents the height that the ball is at the air, like how high is the ball up at that moment. So at 0 seconds, it's at 80 meters, and that makes sense because remember our problem I started off throwing a football 80 meters at a height of 80 meters. So if I keep going down, all the way down to 6 seconds, the ball's at 23.6 meters high. Then I go down to 7 seconds and oh my god, I get negative 20.1. I know that can't work. There's no way that the ball's going to go negative 20 yards into the ground. The football's going to hit the ground and it's going to bounce. So it can't go negative down. So I know that the ball is going to hit the ground between seconds 6 and 7. Because I know that the ball cannot be a negative number, so I know in between there it had to have hit 0. The ball must have hit the ground between that time. So now I can go ahead and go back to my problem. And I can finally say between 6 and 7 seconds. Okay. And it might help to do, it actually might help to just go ahead and write the table. I'll start at 3. At 3 seconds, it was at 95.9. At 4, it was at 81.6. At 5, it was at 57.5. At 6, it's at 23.6. Okay. At 7, it's at negative 20.1. Okay. So that's how I know the ball hits the ground, between 6 and 7. So time this X represents time. So at 6 seconds, the ball's at 23.6. So the ball has not hit the ground just yet. If you look at the example of here, the ball is maybe right there. It hasn't hit the ball just yet because it's 23.6 feet in the air. And then at 7 seconds, it's at negative value, which can't happen. So you know, in between this 7 seconds and this 6 seconds, in between here, you know the ball had to have hit the ground. Which is why between 6 and 7 seconds, the ball hit the ground. The ball hit the ground. Okay, that was the worst handwriting eligibility I have ever done in my life. But there it goes. That's how we go ahead and solve some of these problems.